That government shutdown, no longer just a Washington problem, it's now landed at an airport near you. Last night, an air traffic control tower sat unmanned for hours at Hollywood Burbank Airport.
It doesn't make me happy.
They are, in essence, the same as firefighters, police. They're serving the public, and public lives are at stake. So I would rather see some resolution be reached.
They have no other way to show that it's hurting not just them, but us.
Travelers were stuck for more than 2.5 hours yesterday after the FAA closed the tower there because of a staffing shortage. Yesterday, nearly 6,000 flights were delayed, and even more are piling up this morning, with 356 delays listed already. The FAA says more than 13,000 air traffic controllers are expected to continue working through the government shutdown, but they're not getting paid, and some are starting to not show up.
And if someone has to take sick leave to drive Uber to make the difference, those are decisions they're going to make themselves. But of course, that's concerning for us. I don't want them driving Uber. I don't want them finding a second job to pay the bills. I want them to get paid for the work they're doing today, keeping our planes in the air and our skies safe.
Joining us now to discuss, Harvey Skolnick. He's a former FAA air traffic controller. Good morning, Harvey. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Ali. Thanks for having me.
So I feel like I've been talking to you off and on for several months now about air traffic control, right? And the concerns that they have long had with staffing. How is this compounding, this government shutdown, compounding the problem?
Well, staffing has always been a problem with the FAA, as I've mentioned earlier. Burbank, for instance, which closed yesterday, is supposed to have 24 controllers. I think they only have 17. Of those 17, I'm not sure how many of those are fully certified, but anytime a facility is not staffed to what is preferred by the FAA normally, it has an effect on breaks. It has an effect on controllers getting time off. It has an effect on training. And the job is tough enough as it is. And when you have to work 6 days a week, and now you're not getting paid on time, so everything has a cumulative effect on the FAA.
You know, the government says that it actually met its goal of hiring some 2,000 air traffic controllers this year. According to Reuters, it plans to hire another 2,200 next year. But how do you think the government shutdown kind of complicates those goals for recruitment or even the hiring itself?
Well, as of right now, everything is as normal given this shutdown. Other shutdowns, the FAA has stopped the hiring process. They've stopped the school in Oklahoma City, and they've stopped training at the facilities. So, so far as I know, the government still has funding until the end of the month. So, if things get settled, then it won't have that much of an impact. But if we do have to go to that stage where we need to actually ask people to stay home, administrative staff and otherwise, controllers themselves are accepted and do come to work. But if it comes to a point where people have to stay home and support services are not available, that will have an effect.
Do you think that, I'm just thinking of morale here, are air traffic controllers kind of fed up? I mean, people who are calling in, not coming in, there's been so much pressure and concerns, right, about collisions and things like that. Do you think some people are reaching their breaking point?
I think they may be. I've been talking to some of my friends, some of the people that I've trained over the years, and I've been in contact with them. They're at various facilities around the country, and they are reporting an issue with morale. And so, look, I mean, controllers back in the day, when you're required to maintain separation from other airplanes, and sometimes that separation may have been questionable, a supervisor might come over and say, did you have 3 miles there? And you say, I did, and that would be the end of it. Today, anytime there's a question, everybody with a cell phone is immediately aware of it. So you're under the gun all the time. The job is difficult enough as it is. And now you're telling people that they might not get their paycheck when it's due. So I'm sure morale is going to be affected.
It's Harvey Skolnick. Thank you so much.
The government shutdown starting to impact air travel. At least a dozen airports, including major hubs like Phoenix, Denver, Chicago, and DC, having serious staffing shortages. An air traffic control tower at Hollywood Burbank Airport went unmanned for hours Monday night. Air traffic controllers, as you know, they are supposed to be working during this shutdown, but they're not being paid. Joining me now is CNN transportation analyst Mary Schiavo. She is also the former Inspector General of the Department of Transportation. Thank you. I'm so glad to see you in person. It's so nice to have you in the studio with us. But there is a lot of concern. So Monday afternoon, this control tower completely shuts down for a bit because they say that people had called in sick, the air traffic controllers. I'm just curious, what happens when suddenly a tower goes dark and you have planes in the sky and on the ground trying to take off?
Well, what happens is the pilots have to act like general aviation pilots, like pilots who fly without air traffic control, and they can do it, but you have to use a communications line that's sort of like a common chat line, and you announce your intentions and you take off just like, you know, I do in our small planes. But it's doable, but it adds a margin of danger. It's not as safe as having full air traffic control, and statistics prove that.
No one should have to work without pay. We are now going into day 7, but they haven't been paid yet. There's a lot of confusion as to why calls out sick now when it's not like you get paid every day.
Right. Well, you get paid every 2 weeks in the federal government. There's the check goes in automatically, and this happens. When I was Inspector General, Clinton went through 2 shutdowns. One was 21 days. And what happens is people get anxious, people get nervous, and sometimes there's abuse of sick leave. And of course, I had to investigate those. People do it to take other jobs, to start looking for other jobs, just in anticipation of losing their paychecks. But in the federal government, if you're out for sick leave for more than 3 days, you have to have a doctor's note. Right. And if they're suspicious, they can require you go to the doctor. So taking sick leave when you're not sick is always a bad idea, which is why their controllers group has called for people not to abuse sick leave. Go in and do your job. You're a federal employee. For example, President Reagan had 7 shutdowns. So seasoned federal employees know about this, but it's hard. Yeah,
it's really hard for families as they're looking at, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, they might have to start looking for work because the last shutdown during the last Trump administration lasted the longest ever, 35 days. A lot of concern out there. I am curious if you think that this, like has happened in the past, the air traffic control, the TSA could force Congress, could be the driving force to get Congress to do their job. Have we seen that in the past?
Yes, we have. You know, that what's interesting is, you know, it's 5 or 6% of the, gross domestic product, but the confusion, the congestion, the inability to get your job done really has, and literally in the past, the shutdowns have been ended because of air traffic control and the inability to travel, because, we rely on it so much. And then there are certain areas that can only be accessed by air. Alaska will be hard hit. Alaska Airlines did say they're going to keep right on flying. And so that's good. But it is often air transportation that pushes the government back to full funding and full work.
You have been and seen everything when it comes to aviation, and through all of the shutdowns that you just mentioned. We will see what happens this time, but it is a pleasure to have you here in person, Mary.
Thank you. Good to be with you.